Alright guys, it's time for UFC 90, and you know what that means? It means Anderson Silva whooping that ass, it means we're going to Chicago, Illinois, and it means some predictions for you guys. So we're going to keep it real, we're going to start at the bottom of the main event and work our way up. Alright, the first fight on the main card is Sean Sherrick versus Tyson Griffin. And while I like Tyson Griffin, I gotta say, I don't expect him to win this fight. He's fighting a guy who's one of the top lightweights in the world, who's one of the most athletic fighters in the world, and who's really strong. There are a lot of people who bash on Sean Sherrick for his past allegations of steroid use, but that's not real. I mean, he may have done steroids, but that doesn't change the fact that he's been a strong fighter in every division he's ever fought in. While Griffin's a pretty good wrestler, I don't expect him to out-wrestle Sherrick, and I expect Sherrick to end up on top of the fight. Sean may also choose to keep it standing, and if he does, he should win the fight on the feet, given that he's a much more technical striker. And on the ground, realistically, Griffin doesn't have a snowball's chance in hell. I mean, he may not get finished, he may scramble around and try and survive, but he's not going to succeed where a bunch of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belts have failed. My pick on this one is Sherrick by unanimous decision. I don't expect him to finish, but if he does, I won't be surprised. I will be surprised, though, if Tyson Griffin can pull up an upset. The next fight on the card is Fabricio Werdum versus Junior Dos Santos. Now, I'm not going to write Dos Santos off, but he's in over his head in this one. Werdum is far and away the number 3 heavyweight in this division, behind Couture and Nogueira. While Werdum isn't a big enough name to get a title shot just yet, he's a serious force in this division, and anybody who fights him is going to have a hard time. He's got a world-class Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu game, and Santos is questionable at best. While Werdum's ability on the feet is questionable, he's been working really hard on developing that game, and hopefully we'll see some progress. That said, I don't expect this fight to stay standing. I expect it to end up on the ground, and I expect Werdum to get a first-round submission. The next fight on this card is Thiago Alves versus Josh Koscheck. Both of these guys are very good, well-established welterweights, but neither of them are really prepared for a title shot at Georges St-Pierre just yet. What's most disappointing about this fight is that the winner probably will get a title shot at St-Pierre, a title shot that he's definitely not going to be able to handle. Alves really has to keep this fight standing because his Muay Thai is fantastic, but he can't really work off his back, and his submission game has been exposed before as being problematic. Koscheck just needs to do the exact opposite. He needs to get this fight to the ground, he needs to put Alves on his back, and he needs to hurt him. And he needs to get into a good position and drop some elbows and drop some punches. Once he does do some damage, Josh Koscheck can and probably will lay and gay the day away. But that's beside the point. I don't expect any fight that Koscheck wins to be exciting, but I do expect him to win. While I don't expect this fight to be super exciting, I do expect Koscheck to come out on top, and I expect him to win with the judge's decision. In the past, Koscheck has been a boring-ass fighter. I'm not going to lie. So I hope I'm wrong, and I hope Alves knocks him out and makes the fight exciting. But if Koscheck does win, it's not going to be. Now, the main event on this card is Anderson Silva versus Patrick Cote. Anderson is sort of the undisputed pound-for-pound champion in the world, and Cote is really up shit's creek as far as matches goes. I think it says a lot about this fight that the last 2 losses on Cote's record are the guys that Anderson Silva killed. Obviously, though, that's not always an accurate representation of how the fight will play out, so let me break down the matchup a little bit. Anderson Silva is by far the best striker in the world, and Cote, while a good striker, can't necessarily weather all the punishment. Now, Cote says he's never been knocked out, and that's true in his professional MMA career, but Chris Lieben had never been stopped with strikes in his entire MMA career either, and it only took Anderson 12 or 13 punches to put Chris Lieben entirely out of a fight. On the ground, we know Patrick Cote can be broken, because he's been beaten by Joe Doerksen, and he's been beaten by Travis Lutter. Now, Anderson outworked Travis Lutter on the ground, and while he was in trouble at some point, which speaks to how good Lutter's jiu-jitsu is, this fight isn't going to be a contest in terms of who has the better jiu-jitsu game. This is MMA, and anything can happen. At the end of the day, it usually doesn't pay to bet on the guy who's probably going to get the shit kicked out of him. So I'm going with Anderson Silva by round 1 TKO. But with the odds the way they are, it never hurts to bet on Cote. You can make 5 or 6 times your money on this fight. Alright, that was UFC 90 live from Chicago, Illinois. It should be a great fight this weekend, and we should see some great knockouts.